Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network invite you to discover your mission, a brand new in-depth monthly video series featuring engaging Catholic speakers who will challenge you to live your life abundantly. For only $25 a month, you will receive a personal monthly mission, including 3 full-length inspirational talks that build upon a new theme each month. Sign up for the Discover Your Mission tier at patreon.com/patchworkheartministry today.
Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry present Journeys in Faith. Now, here's Anne DeSantis.
Hello, welcome to Journeys in Faith here on this Friday evening. It's great to be here with you in December. Here we are in the Advent season. It's so awesome. And I have an amazing guest with me this evening. I have Mario Costabile. He is the founder of Array of Hope Ministries. Mario, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. It's always wonderful spending time with you, Anne.
Thank you. So this is a great show because we have some audio visual, and Mario's done amazing work to reach out to youth and young adults. So we always like to start out on Journeys in Faith with your own personal faith story. So if you could please share with us, we'd love to hear.
Oh my gosh. Where do I start? Well, I'm a cradle Catholic and went through my youth, just going to church with my family. As I got older, I got involved in my own personal youth programs in the church. And that was sort of like the first step that the Lord tapped on my shoulder and said that to me that he was real. And I had a really profound experience and introduction to our Lord when I was about 14 or 15 years old. But then you go through high school and you have distractions and you're living in the world of being a teenager and a young adult, and you kind of forget about God. And it wasn't that I wasn't going to church, but I wasn't engaged as I was or excited about God when I first had a transformative experience with him when I was a young teenager. But then I got married, started my own business. I've been a music and film producer now for 40 years. I was very engaged in being successful, a music producer, and got married, started having kids, and we raised our kids. I married a Catholic woman, so we, both Catholic. We raised our kids Catholic, put them through Catholic grammar school, Catholic high school. Some of them went to Catholic college. But as I started to get older, I guess when I hit my 50s, now I'm revealing my age to your viewers, I started thinking about my own immortality. I started thinking about, well, is this God I've always believed in real? And the teachings of the Catholic Church, I'm not on board with a lot of this stuff. And so I started going through sort of a searching period to really understand my own purpose, to understand the Catholic Church, understand Jesus. And through that, the Lord, I was graced with certain moments in my life that I had to make decisions, and those decisions kind of steered me closer and closer to God. And I had some moments of grace in realizing that God was real. I had some things that happened in my life that changed the trajectory of where I was heading in my own personal journey. I'm a cancer survivor, so that was the first step that the Lord said, look, you're not going to live forever, and you better think about, the existence of eternity and where you're going to be in eternity. And those are the things that I started thinking about in my 50s. So to make a long story short, as I started investigating, reading and trying to invoke a consistency in prayer, I started to rediscover God, and I started to really fall in love with who he was, and understanding purpose. And when that happens, you come to a point in your life where there's sort of like, there's like a line in the sand, and it's like you can continue your life and not, you can continue your life and be ordinary and be routine in being a Catholic, or you could actually step over the line and live a true Catholic identity and life, and work toward eternity, and your soul ending up in heaven. And I had the grace and the clarity at that moment where and the courage and the obedience to step over that line and say, you know what, Lord, I want to live, in union with you. And that was the beginning of my journey to becoming, a Catholic that lives the faith, or trying to live the faith. We fail often, but that was the commitment I'd made, the promise I'd made, the covenant I made with God at that moment in my life. And I was like in my early 50s. And through that, that's how A Ray of Hope evolved. So you kind of asked, is that what did you ask my Catholic story or the Ray of Hope story? Now I'd forgotten. I've been talking so much.
I think I started out by saying your journey in faith, like
Okay.
the name of the show. And I always love to hear your story, because you've been
Right.
on another podcast with me
Yeah.
before. And I love your faith story because you're really living it, and you can see it even with your children and how active they are in the faith too.
Yeah, I wanted to share, because I think the Lord presents to each and every one of us a moment in our lives, or several moments in our lives. He's always calling us, and often we ignore that call, or feel that that's just make believe. I'm not. That's something I'm feeling. It's not really true. But the Lord is always inviting us to be in union with Him, and it takes grace and courage to say yes. But I want to share with your viewers that call is real. And what we need to do is we need to pray to have the courage to, as I did, to step over the line in the sand and live in Him. And what I can attest to is that it's not easy. It's often very challenging, as you know, Anne. But the thing is, here I am, the latter part of my life. I'd say I'm I'm now, in my 60s and moving toward the, old age. I mean, I know I have a couple more years left, but the thing is that there's a joy that I experience each and every day, as difficult as things are today in our culture, that I've never experienced in my life ever, and that joy is knowing that, I walk with God, I walk with Jesus, and He is my strength, my pillar. He is where I rest and search for peace. And it makes me emotional, because I lived many, many years without that. And many of us do. And I have many colleagues within my history of my music colleagues. And, I'll ask them, hey, Joe, how you doing? How you feeling? How's life? He goes, it's awful. It's the same stuff. And they'll complain about their spouse, or they'll complain about their jobs. And I was there, and it's sad that many of us live like that. And there is a better way. And often people are scared to say that better way is God. That better way is to live within the teachings and the confines and the structure of the Catholic Church. But it's so beautiful once we get into it. And I was that pessimist. I was that one that was very doubtful early on, in my life. And like I say, I owe it to just moments of grace that presented itself to me. And God had a plan for me that is constantly being revealed and shown to me, that it's like, wow, God, and this too, and okay, I'm up for the challenge, let's go. And I know that it's going to be scary and crazy, but the joy comes from knowing that it doesn't matter, it's not my strength, it's God's strength that I'm relying on.
That's right. And personally, I'm so grateful that I've met you, because not only have you worked with me with doing these podcasts and different things, but I know that our community has expanded as you got to meet some people in Western New York and do a beautiful concert there for Our Lady of Mercy. We say hello to the friars out there, Father Matthew and Father Ken, because they are
awesome.
That's right. They're part of the religious order that I represent with the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith.
Yeah.
And meeting you, and for you to be able to minister to the people out in that area, And I know you've done a lot of work here in the Philadelphia area too, where I'm from, and going to the different churches there and performing your concerts and reaching those youth and young adults. And I know so many people that I'm in contact with, they express to me how concerned they are about the millennial and younger generation. And I think when I hear your story about how you've connected so deeply with your faith, and not at a super young age, right? Because you said you were in your 40s when God kind of came to you in a stronger way in your heart, and you walked along that path with him and decided that the Catholic Church was the right path for you and that you wanted to do something even greater with that and evangelize.
Yeah.
So it's incredible. So let's go to A Ray of Hope. And how was that born?
Well, and I'm glad I got to share a little bit about my personal journey, because A Ray of Hope is a product of my growth, as a Catholic, and my spiritual connection with God. So as I experienced this spiritual awakening, it was easy, or there was a longing to want to share it. I mean, it's like, people would say, well, what's with you? Why are you what are you so happy about? And it's like, you just, God, people are like, what? What's your problem? Like, you can't just say that, So the Lord, presented that, Mario, you can share the teachings of the church. You can share the beauty of who I am. I'm speaking as God would speak, as you spoke to me, by utilizing your skills, your talents. And I said, well, I music and film and events. So I said, well, okay, let's go for it. And that's how the beginnings of A Ray of Hope started. A Ray of Hope is a multimedia event where we would produce concerts, in parishes. And that's how it started, local parishes, where we'd have music and music, the players would sing and then witness the faith. And then I'd have a visual component, so there would be storytelling through short videos. And initially, A Ray of Hope was just, let's just praise and worship and share the faith so people can see that God is vibrant and relevant in our culture. That's really the beginnings of how A Ray of Hope was. But as I started growing in my own faith and understanding the teachings of Christ on a deeper level, A Ray of Hope grew as well. We wanted to be more profound and prolific in the message. We wanted to be more targeted in the Catholic message, So initially, it was more just, happy-go-lucky, God is great, we love God kind of a thing. And then as the A Ray of Hope developed, we started saying, well, let's share the importance of intercessory prayer with the saints. Let's share the importance of Our Lady for her role in our salvation. Let's share that relationship with her and her son. Let's talk about the sacraments. These are things that, Jesus left with us, and they have strength and power and offer grace. So A Ray of Hope grew, and those topics and subject matters started becoming part of our presentations through our live events, but also in the films and the content that we shared. And as we grew as a ministry, our content started being shared, globally and nationally through Catholic television and a multiple of other outlets. So it's beautiful how the Lord has continually, shared and presented opportunities for A Ray of Hope to really evangelize through. So, in answer to your early question, how did A Ray of Hope start? It really just was an opportunity that God presented to me to share my own personal talents and gifts. So it's really what I've always done, to convey messages, to convey sentiment, to transform. Like, I did a lot of commercials in my early, career, and the structure of a commercial is to engage someone, get them to be interested in the product, and then sell the product. Well, I use those same techniques, is that I engage the viewer, whether it be at a concert or music or a film that we're creating, and get them to share in the commonality of the subject matter. And a lot of the Ray of Hope stuff, it might be family or what makes us, music, and then interject, the points of faith. So it's all those skills that I learned. And now in hindsight, I realized, boy, God had been working in me my entire career. All those things that I learned working with, businesses and companies and music executives and TV executives were all things that I was honing into my own skill set that later in my life I would use for God, which is pretty crazy to me to think about it. It all had a meaning and a purpose. It's like you live your life forward, but then you kind of understand it backward, if you know what I mean. It's like, so that's sort of what Array of Hope, has grown to now. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary this year, it's pretty amazing.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. I didn't know it was around 10 years already. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. 2010, their first Array of Hope concert was in a gymnasium in Bergen County, New Jersey, in Westwood, New Jersey.
You are doing incredible work. And I know I don't say that in a way because I know you glorify God in all that you do. And you said that you took what you learned as a young man about advertising and commercials and music and all the things that, God put in your path to use now. So I think that's just a wonderful thing. Now, one of your biggest ministries is to confirmation retreat, to young, youth who are going to experience confirmation, and you do virtual confirmation retreats. I would love it if you could tell us more about that, because this whole world has just gone virtual with COVID and everything, and we just don't know how long it's really going to last now, do we? I mean, it could be next year as well. So
Well, what's really been amazing about Array of Hope's journey is that every few years, it's not that we reinvent ourselves, but the Lord, I think what's really important as a Catholic church is that we evolve with the times and the culture to spread the message. I think one of the things is that the Catholic Church is guilty of, that we get caught in these sort of ruts that were what worked 10, 15, 20 years ago. A lot of people feel what we can do it today. And I think, we need to find different ways to think outside the box, to continue spreading the message to our young people, to our families. And Array of Hope has always been evolving like that. So when COVID hit the beginning of this year, and you can imagine, we're primarily an event organization, that our last event was March 9th. We did a big confirmation concert, and then we had 3 that upcoming weekend. March 9th was a Monday. It went standstill, dead zone. We couldn't, everyone was locked down. So I'm saying, oh my goodness, God, what are you calling us to do as an organization? Is this sort of it for Array of Hope? No more events? Like, what do we do? And through a lot of discernment and a lot of prayer, I was being led to say, well, you know what? Our social media is doing really well. People are responding to our films on Catholic television. Somehow maybe we can create an event. And I didn't know how to do it at the time. It was only an inspiration, is that maybe we can create an Array of Hope live event in a virtual platform. And as I started investigating and looking at these platforms, like there was a couple of Catholic conferences that happened in the spring. And I said, well, this is good. The Catholics are doing this. We actually even participated in some of them. But the thing that was a little bit of a letdown for me is that you walked into the conference and there was a lot of films and things that were sort of pre-recorded. And excuse me, the Array of Hope experience is very, excuse me, the Array of Hope experience is very interactive. We often would engage the audience, bring them on stage, have them, participate with our musicians and our presenters and do trivia games. And I said, in order for this to fly for Array of Hope, we need to make our platform interactive. And that took a lot of time to figure out. And we developed something where the retreats now and our family presentations and concerts are very interactive, where the presenter reaches out and the viewer can engage through a chat or through polling. And we even have a virtual live stage that we can invite people to, where they actually engage with the presenters. And we developed this. It's called Rise Up, the virtual, retreat program, and Rise Up, the virtual, Rise Up, family concerts. And we launched our first one in September, and it's like every weekend we have an event tonight. We have an Advent event. We had one on Tuesday. We have another one this weekend. So it's really caught on, because I think, the church needs to continue to evangelize and to offer formation, but we're restricted to being able to be socially distant and restricted to be together. So this is sort of like the next best thing. If you want, and if it's okay, I could kind of show your viewers a quick little video that will demonstrate what it is that we're doing. Is that okay?
Oh, I love it. Thank you.
Okay, stand by. Here we go. Are you seeing that? Here we go.
Now's the time to start.
These are historic times. And as we are struggling to find ways to continue our CCD and faith formation programs, A Ray of Hope is convinced we have found a solution. A Ray of Hope has created a one-of-a-kind virtual event personalized for parishes, schools, and other Catholic organizations seeking to catechize and evangelize in a COVID-19 reality. Welcome to Rise Up, a truly interactive, live, multidimensional virtual retreat. This virtual retreat brings together solid catechesis, personal faith stories from young adults, prayer experiences, musical performances, and live interaction. It's fun, it's engaging, and it's faith-inspiring. Ideal for confirmation retreats or other faith-building events, Rise Up enables parishes or dioceses to plan with more stability in the midst of the uncertainties of what reopening will look like.
Rise up, rise up. Faith is what we need. Rise up.
Rise Up, our virtual retreat, is specifically designed to serve you and our church. So let us help you.
It's pretty cool, right?
Oh my gosh. And I love that song, Rise Up. It'll be in it'll be in my head all day now.
Well, everything
awesome
that we do here at Ray of Hope is original content. That's one of our songs. And we're actually going to be releasing that as a single in January. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. And all of them, all of your team are very talented. I mean, they really are. They're so talented. Tell us about your team.
Over the years, our team, members of our team come and go. And I always pray to the Holy Spirit to bring the next new member, someone that's on fire, someone that is searching, someone that wants to be part of the evangelization team. So the team that we have presently now, they're just great. They're just, I look for those qualities. I look for someone that is in love with Christ. And I think that's the secret sauce. If you're in love with who God is, it's just part of the equation. You want to share it. You want to explode with the enthusiasm about the beauty of who God is, because you can't hold it in. So, and then, you got to find the skills that the team that are comprised of the team. So we have social media people that are really good at developing messages. We have our video production team, Nick, who does all our editing, Jack, who does all our music and production. We have our podcast that we're developing, the Jack. We have our director of theology, so David Heideck. So we have all these members now that are, we have a good team. There's about 12 of us that are with us on a daily basis. And then we have the extension of our music team. So our total team is about 16, 17 people, which is exciting, and we have a small production facility here in the northern New Jersey, Old Tappan, New Jersey. You've never been out here, Anne, have you?
No, not yet, but I would love to. Especially once COVID is all finished, right? Because it's traveling from state to state.
Yeah.
That whole getting tested and everything, but I definitely would love to come.
It's only a couple hours away, for you. You're in the Philly area, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, you should come out. I'll take you out to lunch, meet our team. I'd love to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good about A Ray of Hope. And I'll tell you, the way that we met was a couple years ago when I was headed out to Lancaster for the day for the Catholic Media Network conference. Yeah. And you had a booth there, and I believe you were there too. I got to speak with one of your former team members, Carolina.
Yes.
And then the rest is history. I was so impressed with it. And because I think what you're doing is you're combining the excitement of really good media, great music, and people who are on fire for God with real catechesis and the truth of the church. So you're combining those two things, which you don't see that often. It's either one component is usually missing when it comes to trying to evangelize youth and young adults, I think. I don't know if you would agree with that one, but
yeah. It's really important, and it's something that we have to work on every day. So our approach is to, as I was explaining, engage and use every tool that's available to get the audience to participate with us. So initially, even like our live platform that we have an Advent family retreat this evening. So initially, we're just going to, share with them music and, hey, how you doing? Hey, let's this is who we are, and and then we ask them questions. Let's know a little bit about you and have a poll, and we just kind of get them to feel good, and that's sort of like the Array of Hope approach. Is we sort of like neutralize their expectation or it being, a Catholic or a Christian kind of event. Sometimes, these confirmation retreats, the kids have to be there. It's mandatory, So we want to neutralize that so they kind of forget what they're doing, and then we invite them through. Once they sort of like feel comfortable, we invite them to a subject about God. Most, it could be as simple as like, hey, how's your faith doing? What's your relationship with God? For me, this is how it started. And the team will start to share and witness, a little bit. So witness is powerful, man. Jesus did that, and the apostles did that. They share their experience. So we're all part of the same DNA as far as being, our humanity is connected through our personal experiences, right? So when you start sharing your experiences, that's the conduit, that's the tunnel, that's how we connect. And then once we start sharing the faith a little bit, people are listening. And then at the end of that sharing of your personal witness, you bring in the catechesis as to why that makes sense. So that's the technique. And that's something we have to work at, because it's easy kind of to share, and it's easy kind of to create that commonality between the viewer and us. But then you have to say, well, this is why this is the way it is. And sometimes the subjects that we share are, maybe hot buttons, and I'm not they're not crazy hot buttons, but we talk about the importance of marriage and why, it's ordained by God, or between a man and a woman. We talk about issues in the sanctity of life and the importance of life and how it's a gift from God. And these are hot buttons that if you start talking about them, people will start putting up their defenses. But if you use that process, and we practice that with our team, invite, invoke, share, and then talk about the truths, the tunnel, the conduit is wide open. So their receptors are more willing to accept what you're saying, because there's already a trust that's been established between the viewer and the presenter. And it sticks. You hope that it sticks. We pray for those, seeds of grace that, it may not stick at the moment, but we're planting a seed in that person's heart that maybe will grow within them at a point in their lives when they might say, oh, that person kind of said that too, because often, the teachings of the church are difficult for the common Catholic. And, when we're sharing the importance of the sacraments, and, I had to hang up with confession for a long, long time, and I didn't want to go, share my soul with a man, and, it's all about ego, it's like, I'm not going to tell you. But when you understand, how how Jesus gave that grace or that vocation or that ability to his, apostles, and how that, is passed down in succession to the successors of the church, and how those graces are given to them, that you start to understand that this is part of God's plan, and it's not your ego, and God he gave us the sacraments for a purpose and a reason, and the importance of the Eucharist and why that's real. It's astounding, statistically. I'm sure you've read this, Anne, that, it's like 70-80% of Catholics don't believe in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, and it's scary. And we talk about that, and
Yes.
why the Eucharist is real, and why we have to have, a sense of respect, and when we're in front of the Eucharist. And so I'm getting off track. I can't remember what the question was.
It's all
But,
good. It's all
yeah.
good, because what you're doing is you're putting puzzle pieces together, because I think there's a real concern for the faith continuing, especially by those who do really celebrate, and a lot of the older Catholics who are seeing the church numbers just go down and down and down. And when you talk to someone like yourself and see what you're doing to try to bridge that gap, I just think it's an amazing thing, and so grateful to you. We do have to take a short break.
Sure.
So all of you. Please do come back in just a little while with Mario Costabile with A Ray of Hope. Hi, my name is Anne DeSantis, and I'm the director for the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. You can learn about us on our website at nonatus.org. I'm here to tell you today about two great podcasts that I hope that you will tune in. The first Tuesday of every month at 8 o'clock, we have a podcast specifically for Catholics affected by divorce. From 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern, go to Philly Nonatus on YouTube to subscribe. In addition, we also have a podcast the last Thursday of every month. That's also at 8 o'clock Eastern Time for 1 hour. And that one is for families in crisis. We have some really great guests coming up soon, so hope to see you then. Please also consider the fact that you can make spiritual direction appointments with us, with our spiritual moderator. All you need to do is go to our website on the contact form and just reach out to us. We'd be happy to hear from you and look forward to setting up an appointment. So would love to connect with you. Please share this video and let people know that we're there for families affected by divorce and also families in crisis. Thank you.
Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network present the Discover Your Mission series.
When I was young, in the 1950s, I attended Catholic grammar school and I memorized the Baltimore Catechism. In fact, I think I got an A on all of my tests. I faithfully attended Mass each week, not because I wanted to, but because I was afraid if I didn't, I would suffer eternal damnation. I followed all the rules. I followed my Catholic faith faithfully. But it wasn't until I became a wife and a mother and I began to try and pass my faith on to my children that I realized that everything I knew about Jesus was memorized doctrine.
I can't even share with you how I was so rooted in my faith. And I was attending Mass, but I was not present. I was a good man, I was a good father, I was instilling the sacraments into my family. I was definitely not intentional. I was stuck rooted in my faith.
But what kind of strength did he have? Jackie did not just have a strength of body or baseball skill. He had a strength inside of his spirit, a courageous meekness that empowered him to play the game.
And I tell him what is going on with me, and he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, no, I think this is like some sort of miracle, dude. And he's like, oh, of course, but I'll believe it when I see it. Honey, you've been trying to quit, and you've been saying this and saying that. And I'm his big line to me is, you shouldn't say things because I never follow through on them. And so this was week after week, month after month. He is looking at me like, this is a miracle. There is no way that you, on your own, could have done this.
In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 16 through 21, St. Paul compares the sacrifice of the Christians to the sacrifice of Israel and then to the sacrifice of the pagans. Paul calls the chalice the blood of Christ, and the bread as participation in the body of Christ, and then warns his listeners that you cannot partake of the table of the Lord and the table of demons at the same time. So in other words, you need to decide, what are you going to participate in? Are you going to participate in the historic Christian idea of the altar of sacrifice, which is in the Eucharist, or not?
Hello, welcome back to Journeys in Faith here on this Friday evening. Thanks for being here with my amazing guest, Mario Costabile with Array of Hope. He is the founder, and during the first half of the show, you got to learn about him and his ministry and even his faith journey, which was incredible to hear. So welcome back, Mario, after our break.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, right before we ended, we were talking a lot about virtual confirmation retreats. And here we are in the season of Advent, a beautiful season. It's been kind of a rough year for a lot of people, and everything has pretty much gone virtual for most of us, with work, with family get-togethers. I mean, it's just been all virtual. You are doing a lot right now with Advent retreats and the Advent of Hope program. Please do
Yes.
tell us more.
Yeah, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, we started doing these Advent and then Lent programs, and what they are is they're Advent of Hope is a daily program that people that subscribe to it will get a reflection of the gospel and a helpful hint for the day. So it's really a couple of minutes that you could spend with God through the direction of our team and our director of theology, Dr. David Heideck. And it's every day that you could be part of this program. On every Sunday, we share a video about the Sunday gospel through one of our presenters, and we have clergy with the Franciscan Friars of the Newell. Father Giuseppe is one of them. And then on Wednesday, we release our music part of the program. So the person that subscribes to it, and you could do this through arrayofhope.net, it's right on our front homepage. Every day you're getting a reflection, and you're getting 2 videos throughout the week, which is really good. And I think, Advent is a period where, it's an opportunity for us as an individual or as a family to grow a little bit deeper, to understand who God is and his purpose for us, and why, he brought his son to us as a savior, and that's what Christmas is about, the birth of Christ, our savior, of humanity. And I think it's important to get into that headspace, and so we can grow a little bit deeper into who God is. So this Advent of Hope program just does that. It's not something that is really overwhelming that you have to read. It's like a couple of minutes a day, and I even do it. And I it's the content that our team has developed, and I do it in the morning. You get the emails in your email box very early on in the day, and you just start your day. I have like a little video there, Anne, if you want me to play for your viewers so you can kind of get a sense of what it is. You want me to do that?
I do. Thank you.
Sure. Here you go.
It's that time of the year again. Christmas is right around the corner. With the craziness of the season, it's easy to get distracted and forget the real reason why we celebrate. Be inspired this Christmas and encounter Christ in a new way. Join Array of Hope on a journey this Advent through daily written reflections, inspirational videos, and music directly sent to your inbox.
Born is the King of Israel.
Let this Advent fill your heart with hope. Sign up today.
Sign up today. That's right.
Yes. And I haven't done it yet, Mario, so I have to do that. I have to sign up. As soon as we finish this call, I'm going to going to sign up.
Awesome.
Because we're still in the beginning of Advent, right? I mean, we still have a lot more time, and Advent seems to always go so fast, I think, but it's a beautiful time. I mean, it's really, it's probably my favorite season of the year, honestly. It's that anticipation of the coming of our Savior.
Yeah, it's a nice time of year. I always struggle with it because I always get a little stressed out with the whole secular getting presents and all that kind of stuff. Although I do. If my wife heard this, she'd say, "What do you mean you don't do anything?" Because she handles getting all the stuff, and she's so good. But it's always been like a little overwhelming to have to. I just don't like the commercial part of it. But I think I'm working on myself to try to move that to the side and really focus on God and the importance of the whole meaning of Christmas, So it's a beautiful time.
It really is. So a lot of times we get people who are really active in their faith, pastors, religious, who are watching this show, and they may be thinking, I would like to work with a Ray of Hope for either the confirmation retreats or doing
Sure.
something virtually. So what would be some of those steps that the pastors or churches can take in order to get, get things started?
Yeah, well, look, we would love that. I mean, we're a nonprofit organization, so we're not, our main goal is not to make money. We want to serve the church. So we welcome a priest or a bishop or a diocese or whomever to approach us and work with them to offer a program for their community or their diocese. So it's as simple as going to our website. It's ARRAY of hope HOPE.net, and go on our website and then just explore the various things that we do. And then on the events page tab, just click on it, and it's the first tab down, the events, the virtual events tab, and that'll tell you everything and anything you need to know about, contacting us and bringing us into your, to your parish or to your diocese. The benefit of doing this virtual program for us has been that now we're actually all over the country, where very easily, and we're doing stuff in Florida, California, Ohio, Boston, Maine, Massachusetts. I mean, it's crazy, right? Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So, we had an event a couple of weeks ago where we had a double. We did one in Florida in the morning, and then we were up in Boston in the evening. So that's the way you would do it. Just contact us, and we're happy to explain and share with you what the approach is and how to do it, and how we can make it available to your parish.
Yeah, it's incredible. So what would be those steps if you could take us through? So they get in touch with you and they want to set up the confirmation retreat. How much time is needed between the time of the confirmation retreat and when you would actually be there, doing it online for them?
Yeah, well, the steps are, once you get in touch with one of our representatives, we would set up a date and a program, and usually, unlike a live event, these virtual events can be planned in a relatively short period of time. 4 weeks, you could book something. And then what we do is we help the parish market it. So we create marketing materials. We do everything. So there's all the registration links, and the process of registration to our event is done by Array of Hope. So it's really a turnkey sort of operation for the parish and or the diocese to be involved with us. It's really, really simple for them. The most work that they would have to do is that just to indicate to us what their expectation is or what their purpose is. And then we sort of we have our templates and things that we do, and then we sort of put something and mold something together that makes sense for the parish. So and it's very simple. There's not that much involved outside of just getting in touch with us. Cost is really dependent on what is available for these kinds of programs with the parish. So sometimes the parishes have a stipend that they normally would pay out to an apostolate or a company to come in and do a retreat for them. But we're flexible. We have a per person price that we can offer to parishes if they're financially strapped. We spoke to parishes in the Midwest where things were, cut and slashed, and many employees were furloughed or even laid off. So we'll work with you. Like I said, we're a nonprofit entity, and if we have to find money to make it work, we'll find money to make it work. So.
Wow, that's so great. And I know about the work that you're doing. Just as I mentioned on the first half, is that you've done work and gone up to Western New York to one of our Mercedarian parishes and been there in person for the beautiful concert. And I know that it really touched so many people's lives. What is it like for you? Now, I know you're not meeting people physically right now because of COVID, but what has it been like to meet so many families, young people, and people who do have that desire to grow in faith?
You mean through our platform?
Yes.
It's been exciting, even for us, we're learning, every time we do a new event, there's a different kind of experience, and we're always perfecting, trying to make these events stronger and more productive and more interactive. So the event that we did this past Tuesday, and we're doing one tonight, is a family Advent event. And part of our virtual stage is where the participants can come up and play games with us, or trivia games, and interact with us. And we have a bunch of games that we do. So I'm often touched by, seeing a mother with her young child engaging with one of our presenters or me, and seeing that beauty of experiencing the faith together. I think, God created the family, the domestic church, for a reason, and it thrives when it's together and it works. And there's a beautiful way of transmitting the faith through the parents to the children. And when they experience that together, it's so profound that, when you see it, on our end, it's very touching for us. It's beautiful. Um, we do miss being live in front of an audience, because there's an immediate reaction that you see in the audience, that people, yeah, they're getting it. This is good. They're engaging and they're clapping and they're jumping around. But we kind of miss that because we don't really see that in the virtual space. We don't see what they're doing. It's not like Zoom where you see 100 or 1,000 little cameras. Our virtual platform is a little different. But we do immediately engage with them in our chat bar, and then we see the comments. So in one level, the virtual platform is a little bit more revealing, because we can actually see what the audience is thinking, and they'll say, "Oh, I love that talk," or "That was a beautiful song," or "That was really great. I never thought about that message that way," and then think about the church like that. So in that way, there's a much more immediate interaction that we can judge and understand. Oh, that was cool. I'm glad that worked. So in answer to your question, when we're able to see how people are responding and interacting with us, it's beautiful. It's affirming for us. We're touched.
Yeah, I know you are. And I'm sure that it's really an honor to meet these people, even if it is just virtually, because you're building relationships. And I was mentioning during the first half is that you have a great relationship with your own family and your kids. They're so really loving their faith and spreading it. Do you have any advice for parents of young children or teens or even young adults of how to get them to engage their kids so that they
Yeah.
are interested in their faith? I don't know if you have any words to say to them.
Yeah. A long time ago, and I forget what book I was reading. It was like one of these self-motivating books. I think it was one of the Carnegie books, or I can't remember, how to self-improvement books. And one of them was on, how to improve your family. And one of the things that struck on me is that you have to find the commonality, or the thing that the family enjoys to do together. So it could be playing basketball, or going on a fishing, or it could be, let's go out for a car ride, or whatever that is that you do it as a family that everyone sort of enjoys. You have to tap into that as parents to continue to do that and create a tradition. It could be playing board games, whatever your family does. So with us, being a musician, music was always something that was around the house. I would play the piano, and then the kids grew up with music. So they all started playing instruments and were affected by the arts. And early on, a large part of my career is I ran and operated a recording studio. So I got the idea one year that rather than sending out Christmas cards, let's just send out a Christmas CD, a family Christmas CD. So the kids would record a song. We would record like the Osmonds or the Partridge Family, and we would record songs, and then we would send them out. And my girls, like Nikki, who was my middle child, she was like 7 or 6 when we started doing this. And my boys were like in their early 20s or late teens. And my boys would play guitar and drums. I would play keyboard and bass, and the girls would sing. And that was the bond, that was music was the thing that we always loved to do. So fast forward a couple of years, when I started Array of Hope, I needed talent. I needed bands. I needed music. And, I was producing a Christian band that I used at the time, which was called Sacred Road. but I wanted to diversify. And I said, well, I don't know, maybe my family could perform. We've never performed before. So, I said, guys, what do you think about this? And, my family, being that I was in film and music, I threw cameras in front of them. So they were all hams. It's like, yeah, let's do it, and they were like the first, that's when they started performing, and my sons, played the instruments and the girls sang. So a couple of years beyond that, that was sort of like we were all sort of diving a little deeper in our faith and music. So there was, again, the commonality, the net that kept us intact. So now, since then, my boys are now married and parents, so they're not as engaged at Array of Hope. But I hope that I planted seeds of grace in them, and they're doing their own families. My girls are still engaged. Lauren is my oldest daughter, and she's very much part as a presenter and a musician and someone that witnesses her faith with Array of Hope regularly. And my middle daughter, Nicole, she's always been in the band and sings, and she's part of the Array of Hope band and music ministry. Now, my youngest daughter, Mary, we just got her involved this year where she's singing on some of the Advent songs. She's involved in our platform here. And she's now 16. Again, it's just like, this is what the family does. And, I think as a parent and someone that's listening in there, just invite your kids, invite them to say, hey, what do you think about this, guys? And if you don't invite them or engage them, nothing's going to happen, right? You have to take action. So in answer to your question, how would you do it? You just do it. You just invite them. You're like, hey guys, you want to play Monopoly tonight? Let's make every Thursday night game night. Another thing that, I think is really, really important, and it's as simple as just eating dinner tonight. I mean, eating dinner with a family.
Very simple.
It's a simple thing, but it's important that, you share, hey, what was your day like? Praying with them. Sometimes that's a tough one to, like, if you haven't been doing it, to say, let's say the rosary together is going to be very strange, but saying grace can be something that becomes normal, before we eat dinner, or saying prayers at night. These are little simple things that I would, if you haven't done it as a family, that's the start, where you start, I use this word, planting seeds of grace. I learned that from Gus Lloyd, who's on the Catholic channel. We started working with him a couple of years back, and he always uses seeds of grace, which I think is really prolific. You're planting those seeds that at some point in time will sprout and will develop. You don't know when. It's in God's time. So in answer to your question, it's the invitation. If you're not invited, and that's what God does for us, right? He invites us all the time, and then we have to say yes. But that's in the spiritual sense. We're in the physical as parents. So, hey, come on, we could be much more persuasive and say, it's not a big deal. Let's go. Hey, come on, guys, let's go play a round of hoops and play basketball or whatever. Men that are sports oriented always get their kids involved in sports. So this is a perfect opportunity. Let's go throw a ball around. Let's play catch, or let's hit some balls, or whatever that sport might be. Keep that intact, and that's your link,
No, that's incredible. And I think it's a lifelong thing too. It's not just for when they're young children or teenagers. I mean, that relationship lasts a lifetime. So excellent advice. Thank you. I know one of the other topics that we were going to talk about is the sanctity of human life, and a special project that you haven't talked too much about in the past, but we're going to maybe learn a little bit about it on this evening from you.
Yeah. Well, Array of Hope, when it first started, there were sort of three pillars that we always talked about. We talked about just starting a relationship with God, understanding that God is real. And then we always emphasized that family, family is important. Let's strengthen the family, and sort of what we've just shared now. But we always also talked about the sanctity and dignity and the beauty and the gift of what life is. And recognizing that life is given to us by God, and God is the one that decides when life begins, when life ends, and we're not really direct in sharing that outside of just showing the beauty of where life originates and you know, who is the originator. And that has always been the Array of Hope approach. The Array of Hope approach has always been to not be preachy, because I think most people, I was very turned off when someone would say, look, these are the rules, this is what you got to do, and if you don't do it, you're going to hell. It's like, that's such a turnoff. So, you know, Array of Hope was formed with sort of the way I was impressed, or was sort of open to who God is and the teachings of his church. So in sharing that importance of life, that's how I felt we needed to express that. And some of the ways we do that is by showing that, you know, life is sacred, life is beautiful, you know, life comes from God. Um, in some of the Array of Hope events, actually in all of the Array of Hope concerts, we always show a film that shows the growth of the baby in utero at conception and how as it develops. And we have little scripture points, you know, God formed you in the womb, and every hair on your head was specific to how I created it. You know, all these sort of little biblical quotes. So people, and I'm paraphrasing, that wasn't a true quote, but you get the idea. So our approach has always been that sharing, you know, life is important. So what grew from that as the Array of Hope ministry a couple of years back in our diocese, the Diocese of Newark, there's an organization called LifeNet Ministries. A woman, Christine Flannery, was sharing with me that she was involved in creating awareness on a bill in New Jersey, which was called the Pain Capable Unborn Child Protection Act. And she was trying to encourage legislators to pass this bill. And for your viewers, what that is that it's a bill that will prevent abortion happening after the 20-week mark, that's the mark where they're saying, scientists and neurologists will say, well, that's where the baby feels pain. We've since learned that babies feel pain even earlier in utero. But they're saying, you know, let's stop abortion here because this abortion is inhumane in what's happening, and ripping this baby from the womb is torture. So, and I was like, oh my gosh, I knew zero about that, let alone what the pro-life community was doing. And I said, well, this is kind of important, and you're trying to create awareness to your legislators. I said, yeah. I said, well, why? And she says, well, the legislators are the ones that inflict these, or put these laws together. And, you know, my nature is, well, you know, maybe I could help you. Maybe I could create like a little film and share it amongst the diocese. To make a long story short, that little film grew. Once I started investigating what this law was legislatively, I learned that there were other laws that the legislators were trying to block or put across, and organizations were trying to create awareness to. And I said, in order to be effective in this film, I need to know what the other states are doing. And I saw that some states passed it, some states didn't. Well, what is the government doing? Again, fast forward, I realized that, wow, this pro-life message is huge, and there are lots of other components that the public is unaware of. And I learned that there's such a division and a polarization in our nation about this subject of abortion and women's reproductive rights. And the more and more I started understanding what this issue was about, the more and more I got interested, and the Lord kept on planting a desire in my heart that you got to get this message out. So as I started to learn more about it, we started interviewing neurologists and doctors and post-abortive women and abortionists and OBGYNs and pregnancy crisis centers and adoption agencies. The subject just grew and grew and grew. I don't know how well you know me, Anne, but it's like the nature of who I am is that I'm over the top. I always have to, like, there's more to this that meets the eye, and we have to really make this presentation the very best it could be so people can understand and be transformed.
Amen.
So this is what happened. I started developing this film, and this film became it became its own monster, and I realized that it grew into not becoming an advocacy film that only talked about issues from a pro-life perspective. My nature has always been, well, if you want to transform or convince me of something, I need to understand both sides of the issue. You just can't tell me your side. I needed to understand, when I was growing in my own Catholic faith, I needed to understand why Protestants understood and believed what they did, and make an assessment where that originated from, and why the Catholic Church understood it to be what it was. And I had to understand the commonality, and then understand what the differences were and why those differences were what they were. And I felt that most people are like that, or else they're not going to be convinced. So I'm creating this film that is a common ground sort of opportunity where people on both sides of the debate can be invested in. So it's an investigative journey to understand what the women's reproductive rights issue is about. I learned that 15% of our culture is staunch pro-life. 15% of our culture is staunch pro-choice. There's no way, if God came down and spoke to them, that they're going to budge on their position. But there's 70% of our culture that is malleable or in between or is impressionable, that doesn't understand. And that's the audience that we're trying to attract. Also, up until now, we've always distributed our content through Catholic media. This is something that's going to be distributed through secular media. My experience and background is in the secular world, so I re-established my contacts with organizations such as Netflix and HBO, and had meetings with them about this subject, and immediately they're like, whoa, this is a hot button. They weren't interested. But when I started having soft meetings with them and explained to them and show them a little bit of an excerpt, and I'm going to show this to your viewers in just a minute, they realized that, wow, there's a lot of interest here. And if the approach is unbiased and investigative, we're in. And when I showed them these samples, they're interested in what we're doing, which is exciting, which means that the culture is going to be interested. And we've showed this to women and families on both sides of the debate. And the interesting and exciting part for us is that this is a hot topic that everyone is engaged in, whether they realize it or not. I noticed statistically that 1 out of every 4 women has had an abortion, which is astounding. And the remaining 75% has been in direct or indirect contact with a woman that has experienced an abortion. So we're all affected. We're all part of what's happening. Since Roe v. Wade, there's been 60 million abortions, in our country, 61 million abortions in our country. So there's something that is happening, and many people don't understand. So if I could take a moment, can I show your viewers this sort of little excerpt?
Please do. Please
okay.
do.
Great. Stand by. Here we go.
I couldn't think logically. I felt just petrified.
As a Black woman who's had 3 abortions in my life, what I didn't have was access to education.
This is the sacrifice that I know is best, selfless. My heart and my head need to separate.
To hear people talk about the role that poverty plays in the inability to make choices around your reproductive health.
Because a woman has to use her body for 9 months, she only should determine how her body is going to be used.
You and I were once children in the womb.
Why is bacteria on Mars considered life, but not a fetus on Earth?
In one room, we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and the efforts of many, many people to save these babies. And in another room, not all that far away, we're ripping them apart.
I've murdered more people than Ted Bundy.
Shootings happened. The whole town was reeling because it was a political crime.
But I think that tension of opposites is important for us to reconcile with, that I can both believe
that this is a living human being and still support a woman's right to choose.
When we consider the issue of reproductive justice, we have to think about who is really fighting for justice.
The political hostility, it's very real.
My hope for America is that it would stop dividing itself along political and racial lines.
Now in its final stretch to becoming law in Ohio.
Just passed in Alabama.
They're trying to go on a path that will totally dismantle Roe v. Wade.
I think the vast majority of people who call themselves pro-choice are empathetic with that woman's situation. The pro-life movement is empathetic with the child in the womb and also for the mother, but the common ground is empathy.
I don't think we should give up on the idea that there is a way that we can respect the life of the fetus and the rights of the woman.
Pretty crazy, huh?
Oh, that was incredible. Honestly, give me the chills just watching it, because it's an issue that I've seen face to face, that I have been to Planned Parenthood to pray there. And so it's good to see that you've brought this to the surface. And I know that we have a lot more to look forward to. So tell us, what is the call to action there? We do have to end in a couple minutes. Unfortunately, We'll have to do a part 2. So tell us
I'll come back.
What would be our call to action for this film?
Yeah. So, as I expressed, we're a nonprofit entity. So if you liked what you just saw, just go to our website. We're still looking, this is all self-produced and self-financed through our benefactors. So if you wanted to be part of it, we sort of have the Array of Hope section, and then we have this Choice Film section, still under the Array of Hope umbrella. But if you wanted to support it financially, we've raised quite a bit of money already, but we're about a third left that we have to raise. So again, just go to the Array of Hope website and send us an email that you're interested in supporting the Array of Hope Film Choice. And we could tell you all about that. But we hope to release it in 2021.
Well, I'm really excited about that. And I thank you so much for being a guest. It's really an honor. And definitely want to have you come back to Journeys in Faith. So everyone, please do go to arrayofhope.net. Any final words before we end?
No, God bless all of your viewers and you and your work, and may God transform you during this Advent period. And we'll pray for you here at Array of Hope.
Thank you, Mario. And please do, all of you, go to patreon.com/Patchwork Heart Ministry for the show called 5 Minutes of Faith, because Mario and I will be doing a short program there on enhancing your faith. We'll see you next week on Journeys in Faith.
Journeys of Faith is a production of Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry. For more information about Journeys of Faith, email info@fiatministrynetwork.tv. And be sure to friend, follow, and like us on social media. Just search Journeys in Faith with Anne DeSantis.